Because again, when we're talking on a daily level, we're talking about possibly, in many cases, hundreds and hundreds of pips that have been moved. And the best way to do this is to look at the wicks, because the wicks are usually strong areas that obviously we have seen price change. Now, if you want a little hack on how to maybe do this a little bit easier, what you can do. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Professor Trades. And in today's video, we're going to be walking you through how to trade crude oil with structure. We are going to look at various time frames, and I'm going to help you look at different structure points so that you can find the best entries based on price action. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Here's a little background about myself. I've been a college business professor with over 15 years of teaching both graduate and undergraduate students, and I've been an investor and trader for over 8 years now. And like many of you, I struggled in that first 3-year mark because there is a learning curve to trading any of the commodities, indices, or just Forex in general. So if you're in that 1 to 3 year span, what I want you to do is go down below into the comments and type in yes. If that's you, that's between 1 and 3 years, and you're struggling, let me know in the comments, because I'm going to come out with a free video course on how to trade Forex basics. And the more yeses that I get, the more videos that I would create inside of this free course for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the chart now as we look at the basics of crude oil trading. So I'm going to share with you exactly the exact same setup that I do each and every weekend to prepare for the crude oil markets. So what I want you to do is, as I'm going over the tutorial, if you need to pause the video to mark up your charts, do the same thing that I'm doing so you can have these exact same levels. So the first thing I do when I open up a crude oil chart is I head over to the weekly time frame. I like to look at the price action, and I like to bring it within view of my charts. And the first thing that I like to do is kind of begin at the highest level. So we will mark this level here, and then look at the most recent lowest level. So what I do there is, even on a weekly timetable, I'm now able to look at structure and begin to look at what the price action has been doing. So you've probably heard this term before. Price action is king. Now there's going to be fundamental news. There's going to be other news that impacts the crude oil markets, but the candles are going to tell you where they're going. So once I go to the weekly time frame, I like to look at a couple of things. So as we talk about how to trade crude oil basics, I like to begin to look at where Fibonacci levels have responded. So I like to go to this high, and I like to swing it down to this low. I'm just going to stretch it across. And again, this validates a lot of what we do inside of our trading club when it comes to crude oil. So for example, many of you know, and you've studied this, and maybe if you're brand new, this is new to you, that the 61.8 Fibonacci level is known as the golden ratio, right? That is where price has retraced 61.8% of where this, for example, high began down to the low. This swing back up was that retracement period. What I have done, I have studied crude oil for over the past 4 years. And what I have seen is that crude oil, even though that 61.8 is a high percentage, what I have found out, because crude oil moves very fast and is very volatile when it's in session, that it really loves to go higher than the 61.8. It likes to go into that 78.6 to 88% area. So if you stick around towards the end of the video, I'm going to be showing you a strategy that you can use, which actually minimizes your stop loss, so that way you can find the best entries for you. So let's get back into the chart here. So now I've kind of understood that on the weekly, we had that intermediate rejection from this particular high point. Then what I like to do is to remove that, okay, and then look at where current price is now. So this is the current and last week's candle, right? I'm going to move my little scope up here. Now what I'd like to do is to grab another Fibonacci retracement, and I want to go from this swing low to this swing high, okay? And if you notice right here, the 100% is put on the low and the 0% is put on the high. Now I'm looking to see where crude oil is responding to. And again, once again here, we can see that we had that retracement period right inside of this area between the 61 and the 88.6. So now, just on two short weekly examples, you see now how the last two retracements, first when it was going up and now it's going down, we have seen that 78.6 area or so been respected. And here's why. Because when you go back into the chart, okay, if there is going to be a change of trend, then for example, on this lower example, price would need to close below the 100. Now you see these are Fibonacci extensions that are down here, and we'll be talking more about that on future videos. But if price were to basically come down to this level, okay, and I'll make this candle red and close down on this level, then we risk a stronger possibility that what happens is that we get crude oil to begin to come right back down to these levels, okay? So because that isn't the case, we start looking for those reversals around that particular area. So now that I've identified this particular area, what I like to do now is go back and recreate that structure on a higher time frame. Now what I like to do is go over to the top and change this now to my daily structure. So again, here you can clearly see this was the high point of the area that we were looking at, and this was the low point. So you see, this gives me a starting area, right? This gives me a playing field, if you will, which allows you to look at price action. And this really requires you to spend some time just learning by looking at the charts. If you are brand new, if you're an intermediate trader, or if you're an experienced trader, the more time that you spend on the charts analyzing price action, the better that you will become, and not only trading crude oil, but every other indice or forex pair in general. So now that I'm on the daily time frame, what I'd like to do is begin to do the exact same process for those levels. So I'll grab a horizontal line, and I'm going to kind of mark up the ones that really stick out where we've seen that distinct jump in price. Okay, because again, when we're talking on a daily level, we're talking about possibly, in many cases, hundreds and hundreds of pips that have been moved. And the best way to do this is to look at the wicks, because the wicks are usually strong areas that obviously we have seen price change. Now, if you want a little hack on how to maybe do this a little bit easier, what you can do is you can come up here to this setting where the candle setting is at, and you can change this over to the line charts. And what's nice about the line charts is that it really takes away all of those wicks and allows you to kind of fine tune your lines based on these peaks and valleys that you see. So for example, here, I like to look where price touches both to the top side and the bottom side. So if you go right over here, let me grab my little scope, you can see here, we had price touch to the bottom and then come back up. Over here, we had price touch to the top and come back down. So I like to look for these areas, and it might make your setting up your levels much easier, because again, you can see these levels here, and then you can adjust accordingly. So once you've done that, you can come back over and you can click on the candles. And again, once you start looking at the daily candles, right, I am more concerned with a smaller period of time. So for example, this right here, ended 2023 and we started 2024. So in many cases, what I like to do is kind of grab a vertical line, right, when I'm looking at it, and just kind of go here, and that lets me know that, hey, this line is now January of this common year, because now I want to kind of look at what price has done since the beginning of the year. Hey, and by the way, if you want to expedite your trading process, trading is hard, but trading in a community is easier. We have an entire community, over 200 members. You're going to get live sessions from me, trade alerts, a member chat zone, free articles every Saturday. So again, I encourage you to check us out at the app.professortrades.com, or to make it easier, just go to the professortrades.com, and that will relink you right into our membership area, and we love to see you there. Okay, so now that we are here on the daily, right, I could easily grab this horizontal line and I can make a couple of tweaks if needed, right? I obviously want to respect these wicks area that are down in here, but I also want to look at where price has reacted to the top side. And if you see here, basically what I do, and this is a large part of what we do inside of our trading group, is that we like to trap price, and then we add some other variables that we exclusively talk about inside of the trading group. And this is why we're so successful and win rate is so high, because we just look for these opportunities to be able to scalp crude oil. And in many of these cases, what we look for is a 20 or 30 point scalp. Turns out to be 100 or 150 pip move. But for the course of this video, I wanted to keep it very basic to give you these structure points and how you can set up your crude oil chart for basic structure. Okay, so now that we are here, right, I begin to look at the next zone, which is going to be the 8-hour level. And again, now I bring price to even a more relative time frame. I'm looking to see where price has reacted, and I'm just confirming that I'm in a good area without really a lot of, distortion, right? Now, you may say, well, this gap here looks very small. Okay, but when you look over at the price, this bottom level is 70.91 and this top level is 72.51. So you're talking about, almost 200 pips that if you just caught 20 or 30 of it, you're going to want to know where these levels are at. So sometimes the levels seem smaller, and that's okay, because again, we're looking for what price action is doing now on a more relative time frame. Okay, so now that we're sitting on this 8-hour chart, we begin to do a couple of things here. I really like the 8-hour chart for the basic structure moves. So now what I do is I begin to grab this square or horizontal line, and I like to put it wider on my charts, and I still keep it white. Okay, and the difference is because remember that zones are never an exact line, they're an actual area. So for me as a visual person, when I share my charts in the trade alerts in our group, right, folks see that this is a range. This is an area where we might be looking for price to reverse. And this is going to be a perfect example of a sell that we took at the end of the trading week this past week. We looked at this structure point. We had seen that this deep bearish candle had broken structure, and then we had a clear sign of a reverse price is coming back up. Okay, so when we see that, this is a perfect opportunity to be able to draw a Fibonacci retracement line. And again, if you look right to where price reacted, it was right at perfect structure. It was within the 61 and the 88 area, and price began to drop from that area, and we were selling crude oil up here at $76 a barrel. So you can see that if you begin to spend some time understanding structure, and we're not done yet because we're going to walk down to several time frames, and by the end of this video, at least you'll have all your structure points set up for crude oil trading really for the rest of the week, because these structure points, because I do them on a higher time frame, really do not need to be changed, right? The only thing we look at are the smaller time frames when we're looking to scalp trading. So if you hang in here a few more minutes, you're going to have an entire structure mini course that I just gave you, and you're going to have a bonus because you're going to have the structure zones set up for crude oil for this trading week. So now that we've established this here, it becomes very simple. Now we're just going to go on up, and we're going to go ahead and mark this high level. Again, I really want it within the relative time, because obviously we know that when the market's open, price is going to move, and this chart will begin to move sideways, right? So I'm more concerned in this immediate area where I can see price. So now I've established some of the high ends and low ends of structure based on current price, right? Once I begin to see price heading towards this structure, then what I do is I create the next level of structure for our members in our trading group, and vice versa. If price begins to near this structure point, then I create these structure points at the lower levels for our members. And again, that's just one of the huge advantages of trading in a community, that you have complete access almost 24/7 between our traders trading London session and with myself doing US session, that you're always going to have availability to charts, trade alerts, and things of that nature. So again, I just encourage you to check us out. You're going to see a banner scrolling at the bottom if you missed it earlier with the website. I encourage you to come on in for less than $1 a day and see the massive value. And again, I'm extremely proud that I can say that my retention rate is just over 92% since starting last November. And I think that's because of the servant leadership style that I believe in, to be able to give back to our members. So now that we have these structure points set up, what I like to do is go down to the 4-hour level. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of these Fibonacci levels because I wanted to show you how that worked perfectly off that 8-hour level. Okay. Now that we're sitting on a 4-hour level, what I like to do is create the 4-hour support and resistance. Okay. So now we're creating a smaller time frame based on previous price action. Because again, we're not going to be trading from a higher time frame. We're going to stay with the trend when possible, or we're going to look for our Fibonacci retracements, or we're going to look out for the secret sauce that we exclusively share only inside of our trading group when it comes to trading crude oil. So now we've seen that rejection. And so we begin to understand that on the 4-hour level, I want to go ahead and mark up this level here. Okay. And what I like to do a lot of times is when it comes to the 4-hour level or before, I like to kind of change the colors, usually to yellow, to let me know that that is a smaller time frame support and resistance, right? The white ones are the larger support and resistance. And then as I see yellow, that tells me that it's a little bit on a lower spectrum. So again, this is something that you can do. And once you do it once and you do it routinely, then you know what you are doing when it comes to there. So now, when it comes to learning crude oil, the basics and structure, I have to understand that we did not break above this structure. We have clear evidence that price is beginning to retrace, right? So at this point, what you should be doing is saying, okay, now that we have a clear reversal, there are really two main Fibonacci areas that you can begin to look at and then look for congruence. The first one is, where did price originally take off? Well, price originally took off from this down point here. So I'm going to find that first green arrow and I'm going to drop it on the top point here. And because it's yellow, I'm going to change the color. Okay. And I'm actually going to change this color to something a little bit, easier to see there. And I begin to say, okay, where is that area that we like to look for? Well, we like to look for that area down here based on that fib level, right? Now, we're also going to take a fib level from a closer swing up where price rejected off the zone, but the same area where it rejected to the top side. And then what I like to do is change that color to give me variance, and we'll make that color this color right in here. Okay. Now I'm going to expand my chart so I can see two areas that are going to be of interest. Number one is going to be on a smaller scale of fib level, looking at the same area between the 61 and the 88, which would come back down to this area. And then I've got the larger swing area, which is down in here, which will kind of coincide with the 127 fib extension. So now I kind of have a couple of plans in place for what happens when price drops to this level. This is usually entry number one at a smaller entry. And then if price does break, right, I can decide whether I want to close it or do I want to wait for a larger area down in here. And this is where, again, not to repeat it, but this is where trading in a community can really help you, because if we see large price action candles like this, the members would get from me, hey, we are not selling at the first level because there is too much selling power coming down. We're going to let this thing crash down to a better price at the very bottom. And sometimes it takes, a quick decision or an experienced decision to help you make that decision for you. So now we understand these are kind of like the bubbles that we're at. So what I like to do here is just kind of get rid of the Fibonacci, just to clear up the chart a little bit, I've established these bubbles, which I know for me and for my group, where we are looking for targets. Now what I want to do is drop over to the 1 hour chart. And I want to begin to do the exact same thing on the 1 hour chart. And you can see here that we now have a clear rejection here. So we're going to mark that area because we can possibly see price come to this wide area, never make it to our Fibonacci extensions, and then eventually come back up. And sometimes you're going to miss a trade. But wouldn't you rather miss a trade, right, or get into a bad trade? And so we talk a lot about risk management. We talk a lot about trading psychology, and that's so important. Okay, so as we begin to look at this, and by the way, we're on about 20 minutes now. If you've been getting some value on this video, definitely hit the like button. I would truly appreciate that. We can get maybe more people to watch this video if the YouTube algorithms are nice to us. And if you're brand new, subscribe. This is what we do. We teach, we educate. If you come in the club, we're trading live daily, okay? On top of all the education and on top of all the community. And if you have a trading community or you just want to share this on your social media, you can impact a life because you can share this video. It might turn someone on to trading. Think about you. More people are trading because they were shared the whole trading aspect by someone. So you could be that someone. So here we are on the current 1 hour chart now. And so these are the distinct possibilities. So as we talk about trading crude oil for basics, we now begin to get into a much smaller area. I no longer care what happened back in January. I need to know now what's happening over the last couple of days so I can see the price action. And so now you begin to have a game plan. This was a 1 hour rejection. Again, we're going to make this a yellow color to just remind us that these are the smaller time frame areas. And now we just begin to track price and we begin to look at price action as the market is moving. And then again, we are not only just using Fibonacci, we're using some secret sauce in the group as well. So this was a very easy way for you to kind of begin to track price. And then lastly is, let me show you the 15-minute chart. I want to show you a little something here that I told you I would share with you towards the end of this video. And again, just because you're sitting on a 15-minute chart, please remember that there is also support and resistance on every time frame. You don't want to discard that, because if you are thinking about taking a long position on this candle here and you fail to see that over the course of the last few hours, price had been rejecting this area, right? I'm not going to take a long view. I'm going to wait for price to close above this area like it did here before I go long. So make sure that you are also targeting your support and resistance on a smaller time frame. Just like right here, we had price bounce in that area right in here. And as I make this chart a little bit bigger, right? Let me get rid of this arrow. We don't need it. That you can see here, let me grab my scope, that price rejected here and went to the top side, and price came down here, went to the top side, and look where price is right now. Obviously, price just consolidated over the last hour of the trading market on Friday. So now you can really begin to trap price. And again, there's little things that we do from, taking trend line breaks and then taking the buy. We have a SAR strategy. We've got more trend line breaks, taking the sell. And again, this is just something that once you do it over and over, and you get yourself a coach and a mentor, and more importantly, a community, right, for less than $1 a day, that this is where you can really expedite your trading journey. So I hope you got some value on today's video. I wanted to give you kind of a basics and a breakdown of the way I look at crude oil and every other market. I do this exact same process on the weekends when the markets are closed, but I leave those higher areas, those higher structures, those higher fibs in place in my charts, because again, studying crude oil for over 4 years, and this is the bread and butter of what we do. And it doesn't matter if you're trading it in Forex or if you're trading it in futures, because I do both. Structure is structure. Price action is price action. And once you understand those two, you give yourself an over 85% opportunity to win more trades if you only know those two basics. And then when we add our Fibonacci's, when we add our secret sauce, we're having a much higher win success rate, especially when it comes to scalping crude oil. And now we've got a lot of folks in our community who've adopted a two entry rule, which is something that I preach. Go in with 2 entries, proper lot size, close one at 20, and let a runner go. And now you're expanding your profits with actually less trading in the actual markets. And we have entire courses and live video recordings on that inside of our trading group. Hey, have a fantastic trading week. Do not forget to do something kind to someone. Kindness is needed in our world today, and kindness matters. Give without the expectation of receiving, and watch your life be transformed when it's the right time to do so. Spend time in your faith, whatever that faith is for you. Spend time with your family, and good luck and have a great trading week. All right, for members, I'll see you in the trading group for our next live session. Have a great week.
Nice one, buddy.